are technically live streaming right now. So like it's gonna start at 7:30 because it's blocked off on there. But yeah, it's just waiting for 7:30 to go. And then as far as we're going right now, I'm already sending a signal to the internet. I just need to like, and we're already recording right now. So.
You've been doing some fun stuff lately.
Yeah, so I just recently worked with Walk Off Here, and I just worked with DJ Jazzy Jeff. I just did lights for the Shrews. I worked with yeah, that was the Walk Off Here. Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, because you're on my Facebook, so you actually see this stuff.
Yeah, I just saw it. Like,
oh yeah, so it was. I only posted a little bit because like you can only post so much, and people just get irritated at it. But it was so cool because I was side stage with Walk Off Here. Like, that was like working with them again on. So I'll be working with them, and then I've got a whole bunch of stuff that's coming by there. I worked with Olympic gold medalist from the 90s, Tewksbury. Yeah, I just worked with him, and then you know what? He was actually very gracious to talk to and whatnot. I ended up talking to him for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. No.
As a swimmer, like that's kind of the least exciting.
Yeah. So I swim. Like I never did when I was a teenager. But I like just for being fit. I don't do it right now. Last time I went swimming was like in February. And but like yeah, so I talked to him about that. I'm like, hey, so like so I swimming, he doesn't swim at all. He's like, I have been since the age of 8. I smell like chlorine every day, and he's like, I'm just over it. He doesn't like do laps.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's still a baby.
Well, it's one of those you can only swim from the area you don't go swim.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, when you actually talk to Olympians and you talk about their like regimen, it's like a job.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And Tim, he was like in such a, because of his irritabilities, when he was so big, and you know, he had to use like self-healing, he didn't come out like later.
Yeah, he talked about that.
And not having actually positive work, that was a whole extra pressure on you. Like, are people going to feel like all of that kind of stuff going on at the same time as you're trying to, you know, all of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I've worked with. I'm trying to get her she does mental health stuff now. The figure skater, Canadian figure skater that's like does everything about mental health. She broke down in the Winter Olympics. She was. Anyway, I was working with her, and she was talking about what, like, think with the 90s and the 80s. Like, you didn't really have support if you were somewhere because like, you didn't have the internet. Like now, if I want to call my parents, I can call them, I can FaceTime them, I can Skype them, and as like a kid, like they're in their 20s, they're still kids, right? And to have that, Mark was on the Canadian team at 17. He's 17 as a kid, right? And to not have that family thing to like go back and have that, especially if you're in another country.
Ended up dying because and the other guy was a mess afterwards, and it's like you see what
mentioned one thing. He made a comment about Vegas, and they basically said, he said, like, do not publish what I'm saying. Like, this is for us internally. This is my research that I found on here. If I go off and say this, if it gets out in the media, then I'm going to be thrashed, basically, because of his views on vaping and cigarettes. Because he knows that the big tobacco and big vaping companies now are going to come after him. And he's published in all the journals, New England Journal of Medicine, all the cancer magazines. He's published for his research, and he was like, this cannot get out. That this is what I think, because it's not. I haven't published my PowerPoint yet. I haven't published this work. This is just for you guys. And if that got out, he would just get burned, like totally burned. I've had it where, oh shoot, time for me to go.
Are we on? I don't want to yell at her. Ben? Good evening, everybody. We're going to start with the evening program, and I'd like to introduce to you Emily Rundell. She is a Toronto biologist, birder, environmental educator, and urban biodiversity advocate, and also, I have to check my notes, the president of the Toronto Ornithological Club. So welcome, Emily.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first OFO convention in a number of years. Yeah. I was asked to MC tonight. I guess a choice that they're going to regret pretty soon. But before they do, I have the pleasure of, introducing some of our speakers in our program. But as usual, before we get started with any details, I'm going to open with a land acknowledgement. And I do apologize for reading the land acknowledgement. It's normally something that I think it's just really important to know and say, but I'm not in my home territory or area, as you guys know. I'm from Toronto. So today we all gather on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, which is composed of the Ojibwa, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. Specifically, this is the home of the Caldwell First Nation, as part of the House of Walpole Island First Nation. And we would like to, extend our gratitude to all of them. I think some of them are here today. And also just acknowledge their caregiving of these lands that we're about to enjoy over this weekend, over time. So, with that, what did I say I was going to do next? So we have two very exciting programs tonight. And we are hoping to wrap up by around 9 p.m. Sometimes these things go a little long. If you're enjoying yourself, please stay. But I know that we all have really, really busy days of birding ahead of us tomorrow. I hope to be in bed and sleeping by 9:15 personally. So if you find that you have to go and don't feel bad about it. We have a pretty casual program planned, but it is going to be a lot of fun. And so with that, I'm not going to be up here too long. I'm not the main event. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our first speaker. I've been introducing him a lot online over the last year or so, but this is the first time I get to do it in person. Mike Cadman is a name that I think will be associated with the Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas forevermore. He was the coordinator of the first two Breeding Bird Atlases, and he's the current coordinator of the third as well. And he is here tonight to give us a little bit of a summary of, I think, how the Atlas has gone so far. Oh, I don't know what he's here to talk about. He's shaking his head at me. I guess you're about to find out. I don't know. Anyway, welcome Mike Cadman, everybody.
Okay, great, thanks. There it is. It's always a relief when it arrives on time. Okay, that fills the screen. Excellent. Great. Thank you, Emily. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. it's just great to look out and see all you folks. Oh, such a great population of birders. Ontario, we have such a wonderful birding community, and the Atlas is one of the things that I'm hoping that we can get you all involved in. Lots of you are already involved in that. Thank you. Okay. And my hope is that we can convince a few more of you to take part. That rather than focusing on the results of the project, I thought I'd talk more about why you ought to be a participant in this project, and if you are a participant, why you should be doing more. So in terms of advancing, okay, great. So just a few slides about what the Atlas is about. If you don't know, it's a collaborative, and the emphasis is on collaborative, which is why I'm here today. It's a project for the province's birders, by the province's birders, to tell the world the state of the birds in this province during a 5-year window, 2021 to 2025. And as Emily said, we've done this twice before. I'm looking at Paul Eagles there, who has helped organize the first Atlas 40 years ago. Give him a hand, yeah. I know lots of people here are participating in that Atlas as well. But we do that every 20 years, and it gives us the best picture possible of the current status, distribution, and abundance of the province's birds. There's around 300 species nesting in the province, we hope. There were for the last Atlas, so we're hoping we'll have around that same number this time. But the idea is to track those populations over time and give us as thorough a picture as possible. So in terms of the specific goals, I get a bit more into specific goals, but really we've set some quite ambitious goals for the birding community, and I'll touch on those. But the main point of this whole exercise, well, we want to find out the current status of the birds. We want to be able to compare back to those 2 previous atlases. This time around, we're hoping to emphasize a little bit more some of the obscure birds that are hard to find, hard to atlas. So nighttime, the nocturnal species, crepuscular birds, and the marsh birds. We're definitely emphasizing Northern Ontario, which we do every time. It's just the vast north, and the Atlas is the best source of information that's out there for birds in the north, so really encouraging people to go there, and I'll talk more about that. And we want to, of course, increase Indigenous participation right across the province, and starting to develop relationships with Indigenous communities and work with them to help find out more about the birds in the area. So the way it works is we divide the province up into 10 by 10 kilometer squares. I know lots of you know this because you're participating already. But then the goal is to find all the birds that nest in every one of those 10 by 10 kilometer squares. Not only are you looking for the birds, you're out there in the breeding season and you're looking for evidence that the birds are nesting. So something like the yellowthroat that's singing there could be listed as a possible breeder. The goshawk on a nest is obviously a confirmed breeder. The pied-bill grebe with young would be confirmed breeding as well. The spotted sandpipers, if you can make out what those are, and the other picture, they're displaying, those are birds would be listed as probable breeders. The other little guys, I don't know if you can see them very well, the 2 young gallinules in there, they're all these prehistoric little guys with little pink nubby wings, really gorgeous things. The kind of thing you only find out if you're atlasing. You have to get out into the marshes and dig around. So when I mention why we're trying to collect this data is to look at change over time. And of course, especially with climate change coming in now, the changes are ramping up. But things like the red-bellied woodpecker here, you can see the comparison between Atlas 1 back in the early 80s and then the early 2000s, the great expansion of that species over that time period. I don't have time to go into all of them, but there's lots of species that are showing this same pattern of expanding to the north, and lots of others that are expanding for lots of other interesting reasons. We also collect data on the abundance of birds. When you're out there, the data is collected by checklists, so you keep a track of how many birds you're seeing on a particular birding expedition, and we have an app that keeps track of the area that you're covering, and that's going to give us information on abundance, but we also do point counts, which are these standardized 5-minute surveys. And if you're expert enough on your bird surveys already, you know your birds well by song, you can do point counts. If you don't know your birds well enough by song, we have little recording devices that you can just put on a tripod, stand there for 5 minutes, record the information, get that information to us, and we have experts who will listen to that and interpret it over the winter and help flesh out maps like this, where you can see the bobolink, you can see the relative abundance of the bobolink. And I can tell you this information was very important in developing the recovery strategy for the bobolink. We were able to focus our activities, or the future management activities, into those areas where the bobolink's most abundant. The atlas, I work for the Canadian Wildlife Service, and the biggest application for the atlas to date has been for species at risk. It helps us determine which species are at risk. It helps us, as I mentioned, develop those recovery strategies, identify critical habitat. Part of the app and part of the information you collect gives us precise information on where the birds are, so we can use that to identify those habitats and down the road help learn to conserve those sites. The second atlas, because we have these point counts, allows us to actually estimate the populations of all the birds. And not all the birds, but the ones that we get good enough samples of. And I think a lot of you know this if you've seen Atlas 2, but these are two of the commonest birds that came out of Atlas 2. And to everybody's surprise, the Nashville Warbler turned out to be the commonest bird in the province. And I don't think many people would have guessed that prior to the Atlas, but very interesting. Around 15 million were estimated, and it's going to be very interesting to see if that's changed when we do Atlas 3. So this is the sell part now. We do need your help. We want every birder in this room to be contributing to the Atlas project. The map that you can see there is the results from the first 2 years of the project. The various shades of brown indicate the amount of effort that's gone in. As you can see, in southern Ontario up to about Sudbury, we've got about 2,000 squares in there. Quite a few of them are dark brown already, which means we're doing well. We've got over our minimum standard of coverage. It doesn't mean we're done in there, but you can see the pattern where we were doing really well in the Golden Horseshoe and up in the more developed areas. It thins out, obviously, even within southern Ontario. But when you get into the central and northern parts of the province, things get pretty sparse. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to go into the far north. We didn't want to be bringing COVID into Indigenous communities in the far north, so we've stayed out of the far north for now, and I'll talk a little bit more in a second about it, but we're planning on expanding that very much in the remaining 3 years of the project to make sure we do get the far north well done. You can see across the central, the roaded part of Northern Ontario, quite good coverage. It's mostly focused around roads, of course, because you've got to be able to get around. But those areas, our coverage requirements are much lower. We're not trying to do every square up there. We're trying to do a sample, and it's looking quite good, actually, for getting that central part of the province covered. But in the end, you can see even within southern Ontario, we want all of those squares dark brown. So at least 20 hours of effort into every one of those squares. Now, when it comes to the point counts are more specialized. We don't have quite the same extent of coverage. You can see the Peterborough folks have been especially active. Thank you, Mike, and Don Sutherland and others doing a wonderful job up in the Sudbury, Peterborough area, filling in all the gaps there. But you can see we're off to a good start. We're 2 years in. A lot of green up there on the Canadian Shield. I wanted to show this map because you can see it sort of highlights the areas where we need the most help. So our goal is to get people into every one of those squares and get our surveys done over the remaining 3 years of the project. If you like to socialize while birding, and lots of people do, you might be interested in our what we call square bashes. Some of those blobs of squares that you saw up on the Canadian Shield, we identified an area around a provincial park. The provincial parks allow atlasers to camp for free in them, and so we've made arrangements with the parks when we can go in. We've got sites set up for a week. A team of people comes in, volunteers from across the province, and we cover as many squares as we can. Would just like to right now invite you all to square bashes next year. We haven't yet picked out where they're going to be, but they're going to be parks in that central part of the province. So if you like camping, you like canoeing, you like birding in that part of the world, please come up and join us. We have a great time and collect a lot of great data for the project. The special surveys, I mentioned earlier the nocturnal birds and marshland birds. We have special surveys. No one else in the world does this, but we have surveys set up designed to collect information on these projects as part of our on these species as part of our atlas, special protocols, and the nice thing about most of them is that to do the nocturnal bird work and the nightjar work, you don't need any special expertise at all. You just need to be able to identify the calls of 1 or 2 species. So literally anybody with an interest can do this. And so again, we've got quite an ambitious agenda, all of these squares we're trying to cover, but I'm hoping we can get a lot of people to sign up for those kind of things. I mentioned the Zoom recorders. That's what these little recorders look like, highly portable. We've given them to all our regional coordinators. They come with a little tripod. You can just attach them to a fence post at the side of the road or in on a tree in the forest. Turn them on, they'll record for 5 minutes, turn them off, put them in your bag, and go on and do another one. Really quite marvelous. They hear really well, and we're getting great information from these. Now, I mentioned the north. We've been slow getting going in the far north because of COVID and et cetera, but this last year, which was the second year of the project, we did send some trips into the north, and the sort of pastel colors you can see here at the south end of the map, those are blocks that we covered in the second year of the project. 5 different trips. The trips are about 2 weeks in length. It takes a week to cover one of those blocks. And so if you're outdoorsy, you have to love the outdoors. All of these are canoe trips, and we're going to be trying to get as many of those done as we can. So we've planned for next year. There are 10 trips there. The ones in the dark colors, we want to get all those done. So up in Opaskwaia Provincial Park, down the Sashigo River, the Fawn and the Severn and the Albany and the Winnisk, the great rivers of Northern Ontario. We want teams of birders going down there collecting information. The emphasis is very much on going back to the exact spots where the surveys were done 20 years ago to improve our ability to do the comparison to 20 years ago. But really, you're going to be one of the first people ever to set foot in a lot of the places that these people are going to collect this data. So again, you can go onto our website and sign up for these kind of things. We have a lot of people already signed up. We're about to get back to them and find out who wants to actually do these specific trips. But very much encourage everybody to be thinking about that kind of thing. They're really wonderful adventures. I did a trip back in the first Atlas, back in 1983. The first one, to see is it possible to get good bird data on a canoe trip down one of these northern rivers. I did the Fawn and the Severn River. Really wonderful experience. You can see some of the shots here from the trips. These are all shots from the trips that were run this last year. So the kind of thing that you can really sink your teeth into, spend some time getting to know a part of the world that's practically unknown and rarely visited. Quite a beautiful area and quite challenging. You have to have your wits about you, and we do our best to make sure you arrive and come back safely. We've hardly lost. Paul, did we lose anybody? I don't think we lost anybody yet. We've done really well. All the atlases actually making it back. If you're under 30, we do hire paid crews every summer. If you're interested in working on the Atlas, we're keen to have you. We had 2 crews last year, 2 crews of 4. They spent all their time. One was up just north of Algonquin Park and across that central part of Ontario. One worked further north for the whole summer, collecting data, filling in gaps in coverage. And it's all really about, at this point, covering gaps in coverage, filling in gaps in coverage. So, again, encourage you to be thinking about that. So, some beautiful pictures here, but I just wanted to go back to my original question on why we should all be atlasers. There's some beautiful places out there, but there are lots of us. There are lots of birders in this province, and the potential for this community to provide a wonderful product is there. And we as birders, we have this unique knowledge. We have these skills, we have the energy, we have the passion. Birds are what we want to do. Shot here from some of our northern trips. But when we work together, birders tend to be, it's kind of like herding cats to get birders to do things. But when we work together, we pull together, we cooperate and fill in gaps and set out to collect data in the way that we do for the Atlas, I think we can do wonderful things. We can get a wonderful database that can be useful for conservation for decades to come. So yeah, if you get up to Hudson Bay, you might be lucky enough to see these guys. And as Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And the other thing about it is success is best when it's shared. So be a part of this, help us out on this. You'll get as much out of it as you're putting in, and hope you enjoy it in the process. And the other thing about atlasing, it does take you to the coolest places. This is Glen Cody, many of you may know, fording a stream up on the Hudson Bay lowlands in June of 1983, or something like that, I think it was. But just really setting an example of the kind of spirit that the Atlasers have. So I wanted to say thanks to all the folks who have worked on this atlas to this time, to all of the ones who are going to be helping out in the future, but to the ones who helped out in Atlas 1 and Atlas 2 as well. And just thanks, of course, to the sponsoring organizations. OFO has been central to helping get the Atlas going, and the membership of OFO is central to making it a success. So thank you all for that. And lots of sponsors helping make all of this feasible. And I'll just leave up our contact info in case, for when you want to get signed up. We do have Twitter accounts and all these other social media, but really the key thing is the website, birdsontario.org, and encourage you to go and have a look at that. So I don't know if there's time for questions or...
There's a little time, Mike. I was going to just say, your shirt. Talk about your shirt.
Oh, okay. I'll talk about
And
my
the reason
shirt.
that talk about the merch is, if you want a shirt, there's a link on the website, Redbubble. Buy 3, you get 15% off right now. So they're on sale right now. So it's a great time to get your Atlas shirt. You
Thank
don't
you,
have
Sarah.
one
Yeah,
yet.
the shirts, I don't know if you've been on the website. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there's a site. It's Redbubble. You can get it from the Atlas website, but you can get hats and water bottles and shower curtains and anything you want with Atlas logos on it. It's very impressive, the variety of stuff they have. But for simple T-shirts and caps, we're sort of expecting will be of most interest. So hope to see more of you wearing those next year. So is it time for a question or? Oh, Lynn's waving her hand. Yeah, I did a poor job of talking about regional coordinators here. I had the one slide where I was supposed to talk about them, and I went right on with it. Yes, so the way the project actually works, we have a central office, a few of us working in there, but we've divided the province up into regions, which are more or less sort of counties, and we have regional coordinators that are responsible for helping make sure that their regions get covered. So they're key and central to all of this, and you need to go onto the website. It's easy enough to find who the regional coordinators are and get in touch with them. They'll help you, walk you through the process. I can see a bunch of our regional coordinators out here. Collar them if they, I don't know, maybe put your hand, are you a regional coordinator? Put your hand up. I know Pete's here. Paul's there. Mark's here. Great, good turnout. Oh, and Martin's over there, yeah. Okay, yeah. Wonderful, thank you, everybody. So lots of regional coordinators, track these guys down and find out more about the project. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyone have a question? Oh. Okay. Oh, yes.
We did lose an atlaser in the first atlas, but he died atlasing. And I was on the FON board with him, and we all said he died happy.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, this is a bit high now. What a roller coaster of emotions that was. Highlighted by the very large glass of wine, so don't forget to go to the bar. And yeah, I'm sure all of you, if you can take a second from ordering your Atlas shower curtain online, we have another great treat for you. If you've been to the OFO convention before, or if you've actually ever been to any event with Sarah Rupert before, there's a really good chance that you've done some of her famous bird trivia. So Sarah, I think, has been amassing, a bank of very difficult bird trivia questions for years now. And yeah, we're going to be having a bit of an interactive experience. I'll introduce Sarah first before I explain a little bit more about it. So Sarah Rupert, sitting here to my left, is a real institution both in the birding community at large, but also here at Point Pelee. She's been a naturalist, educator, communications expert at Point Pelee National Park, focusing on birds for many years now. For 23 years now. I don't think her mic was on for that. She didn't want you to know, but for 23 years now. And yeah, I know my first trip to Pelee, I met Sarah there. And yeah.
Well, you even worked at Pelee.
Yeah, that's
for
right.
a summer.
So this is going to be really tricky. I hear that, tables are going to be working together on the answers. I also hear that there are prizes, so please get motivated to, put your best foot forward and to cooperate. And I'm going to let Sarah explain the rest, and I'm going to try and win some trivia. Take it away, Sarah.
All right. So look around your table. Hopefully you've chosen who you've sat with wisely. and we'll see how that part of it goes. We're just going to get my presentation set up here. So you'll see that there's an answer sheet on the table and pens. So you can pick somebody to be your scribe. There are points associated. Hopefully the math won't be too hard. All right. And for anyone who's been to my trivia nights before, yes, there is a color thing again this year. I know, you groaned, but you love it. Everyone loves it. So we're just going to get started here. And if we work efficiently, we might be out of here well before 9 tonight. So one of the great joys I had in my childhood growing up was this bookcase that my dad had. And I still have the bookcase. I don't have all the books that were in it, but in that bookcase, he had a collection of the bent life histories of birds. And fortunately, while I don't have the books anymore, they still exist online. And one of the things I loved about these books were some of the descriptions of the birds. Because they were like these classic descriptions that are not your typical field guide descriptions. So our first category tonight is don't get bent out of shape. So I'm going to read an excerpt from a Bent Life History of Birds. Some of these were written by Bent, and some of these are great quotes he found about these birds. And you're going to tell me what birds they are. The nice part is I made it multiple choice. So don't even have to pull the bird name out of your head, out of the air. So we're going to start with this one. Don't worry, I'm going to read it for you. It's like, no doubt he enjoys life after his own fashion, but notions of happiness are peculiar. He prefers solitude and the eccentric life of a recluse, forgetting the world by the world forgot. To see him, his ordinary occupation, one might fancy him shouldering some heavy responsibility, oppressed with a secret, or laboring in the solution of a problem with vital consequence. He stands motionless, his head drawn up on his shoulders and half-closed eyes in profound meditation, or steps about in a devious way with absent-minded air. For greater seclusion, he will even hide in thick brush clump for hours together. Startled in his retreat, whilst his thinking cap is on, he seems dazed, like one suddenly aroused from a deep sleep.
But as soon as he collects his wits, remembering unpleasantly that the outside world exists, he shows enough common sense to beat a hasty retreat from a scene of altogether too much action for him. All right, were they describing American bittern? Oh, sorry, we went a little too fast there. So least bittern, king rail, or Virginia rail? But it's a great description. So it was like, I have no idea, but isn't that like the best description? I read that, I was like, this is amazing. All right, are we ready to move on to the next question? It's multiple choice. If you don't know, just pick a letter. All right, so here is our next one. His love song is a woodland idyll and makes up for much of his shortcomings. From an elevated perch from which he can survey the surrounding waste for a considerable distance, he flings himself into the air. Straight up he goes, on fluttering wings, legs dangling, head raised, and his whole being tense and spasmodic with ecstasy. As he rises, he pours forth a flood of musical gurgles and whistles that drop from him in a silvery cascades to the ground like the sounds of fairy chimes. And I'm going to share a little story that I actually read this excerpt after an experience I had with our president, Jeff Skevington, birding at Peely one spring. So, are we talking about a house wren, song sparrow, gray catbird, or yellow-breasted chat? All right, we're going to move on to our next one. All right. Okay, that's all right. You can see the selections while I'm reading it. On the evening of May 4th, about 8 o'clock, a single bird was heard singing. This was the first arrival noted, and no others were heard that evening. At 2 o'clock the following morning, 6 hours later, I was awakened by birds singing loudly everywhere. I dressed and went out, and for more than an hour, the chorus continued. There were numbers of birds about the house, on the doorstep and ridgepole, others sitting in the road or from the stone walls along the road, while still others could be heard from down in the pasture. Often 8 or 10 were singing in the same instance. So this is a screech owl, northern mockingbird, eastern whippoorwill, or northern saw-whet owl. All right, seems to be a little less discussion on this one. All right, so here's our next. Because of their short wings, they cannot fly with much altitude or stay in the air for a long time. So they only travel by fluttering from hedge to hedge, from bush to bush, and they are never seen at the top of tall trees. They hunt on the ground for different seeds they feed on, pushing the leaves and weeds that hide those seeds aside with their bill and feet. Is this a song sparrow, an eastern towhee, a fox sparrow, or a white-throated sparrow? Okay, we'll move on to our next one. All right. We discern what appears like a puff of smoke in the distance, drifting in at a considerable height. After a minute or two, the smoke is resolved in an aggregation of black specks, and then, as it drops lower and lower, with one last swoop and flutter of wings, they alight on the more prominent of the few scraggly trees. This is describing red-winged blackbird, European starling, tree swallow, or American crow. All right. Going to move on to our next one. The birds which compose it appear suddenly, often in very large flocks, make themselves particularly conspicuous by roaming restlessly over the country, frequently visiting densely populated localities to feast on berries of the mountain ash, the English hawthorn, the parkman's apple, and other cultivated trees. They also eat asparagus berries, and they are especially fond of the berries of red cedar or Virginia juniper. They disappear almost completely by the end of April, presumably going further north to breed, although it has never been definitely established. This is Bohemian waxwing, pine grosbeak, cedar waxwing, or American robin. All right. All right, we're going to move on to our, everyone ready? How's everyone doing in the back? I haven't seen anybody. Hey, back there. Haven't talked to many people yet, so. All right, here's our next one. The male may fly onto the same limb on which the female is perched, alighting usually higher up on the branch. Then, with his crest and neck and body extended and singing very rapidly, he may step sideways down the limb to the female. During this time, he appears to fairly slide down. If this process is interrupted by the female flying to another tree, the male may pursue her, flying directly towards her with an outstretched crest and neck and singing on the wing. Is this Northern Cardinal, Blue Jay, Tufted Titmouse, or Cedar Waxwing? Sliding down the branch while singing. So he's got like a kind of an electric slide going on down the branch. Okay, we're going to move on to number 8. This, the name of the species, is one of the poorest nest builders known to me, and undoubtedly the slovenly manner in which it constructs its nest causes the contents of many to be accidentally destroyed. And this probably accounts to some extent for the many apparent irregularities in their nesting habitats. Their nests are shallow, frail platforms composed of small rootlets, sticks, or twigs, a few of these being 3 or 4 or 5 inches in length, and among them a few dry leaves and bits of moss. This is a cuckoo, a rock pigeon, a double-crested cormorant, or a mourning dove. Mike? Does Mike have an opinion on this one? Yeah? All right. We're going to move on to number 9 in this category. The blank is a droll, earnest little bird, rather sedate and unemotional. He is no great musician and seems to lack a sense of humor. He has none of the irrepressible fidgetedness of the house wren, none of the charming happiness of the song sparrow. He appears to take life on a matter-of-fact level. Are we describing a white-breasted nuthatch, a brown creeper, a blue-gray gnatcatcher, or a swamp sparrow? All right. Are we ready to move on to our last one in this category? Okay. It's a short one. No other species of ducks is so cautious upon its arrival. Is it the green-winged teal, the northern pintail, blue-winged teal, or gadwall? All right. Has everyone got an answer for this one? I'm going to be really nice this year and not make you wait to the very end to know all of the answers. We're going to do by category by category. All right. So the answer for the first one, anyone want to yell out what they think it was? Well, let's see. It was American bittern. I really love that description of the bittern. Okay, number 2. This one is the yellow-breasted chat. And I don't know, Jeff, do you remember when we saw the chat do the butterfly display across the road? That's when I went to the Bent Life History book and read this whole excerpt, and this kind of triggered in my brain to try this today. All right. So the next one, anyone want to hazard a guess as to which one this was? This was where all the birds singing at night. It is the whippoorwill, yes. All right. The bird with the short wings that can't get much altitude is eastern towhee. All right. The puff of smoke. Bee. Somebody said European starling. How many bees do we have in the room? Anybody else have something else? The A's win. All right. So this is the berry-eating bird, and it is the Cedar Waxling. All right, and our crested bird that's trying to get a mate was the Northern Cardinal. The poor nest builder, what was your guess, Mike? Mark told you it was cuckoo, and Mark is right. All right, okay, and this is the one that when I read this, I went, this does not describe this bird the way I see it at all. And it is actually the white-breasted nuthatch. I would not describe him as unemotional and lacking a sense of humor. All right, and the nervous duck is the blue-winged teal. All right. Okay, so we've got through the first round, and the next round is the one that you've all been waiting for. Yes, Rufus is a color. So this is the game where I show you some Rufus, and you tell me what bird this is. So this is just our example. So we've got some like rufous bits. They look like they might be parallel. Maybe they're on the side of a bird. All right. Are we ready to try this one? Here's our first one. Yes, rufous is a color. All right, have I tortured you with this slide enough? All right, we're going to move on to number 2. All right, we're going to move to number 3. Okay. You're going to really love this one. Here's number 4. We like to say that this levels the playing field, this part of the trivia game. All right, we're going to look now at number 5. It's rufous on my screen. Okay? Maybe you're going to like this one a little bit better. You're welcome. All right, here's number 7. Okay. Here's number 8. All right. 9. Okay, and here is our last one. Too fast? All right. How far back do we want to move? We can go back a couple slides if you'd like. Somebody's going back to number 1. We'll go through them all again then. Okay, here's 1 again. All right. So everybody got an answer for 1 now. Okay, 2. There's 2. Okay. Take a look at 3 again. All right. Here's number 4. Okay. Are we good to move on? Here's number 5. Okay. Number 6, which is the one I think everybody kind of liked me for. Okay. Here's number 7 again. Take another look at this one. All right. Do we need to, anybody need more time with this one? Or is it you've had enough time and you still don't know? Okay, here's number 8 again. All right. Okay. Number 9. one more time for number 9. Okay, and finally, there's number 10 one last time. Okay, are we ready to look at these guys and see what they are? Okay. So number 1 is an eastern towhee, formerly known as the rufous-sided towhee. All right. Number 2. All right. Some people are happy with this one. Okay. Number 3. A lot of groanings. Don't hold this against me for life, guys. Okay, how about number 4? You guys know I have a lot of fun with this one. All right, how about number 5? Yellow-billed cuckoo. All right. Number 6. I think people were feeling fairly confident with this one. Are you right? It's the disco sparrow, or fox sparrow, as you guys might call it. But all right, this one, a lot of people were thinking hard on this one. And if you thought the red was in the tail, you're right. Great-crested flycatcher. All right. I think a lot of people were puzzling what part of the bird the rufous was on with this one. And it's actually on the neck. Redneck green. All right. And unfortunately, this isn't showing up as rufusy on the screen as it is on my screen. But this is Eurasian widgeon. Yeah, I know. It was a little tricky. But I was looking at birds that had nice rufous, and they do have a nice rufous head. All right, and our last one. Any guesses? Bay-breasted warbler. Okay, I'll give you a moment to recover from that section. I hope I haven't emotionally scarred anybody for life. All right. So I figured now we'll move on to something that might be a little easier for some people. If you keep up on all of the places where you can find out about rare birds, you might be able to tell me some of these recent rarities. So we're going to test our knowledge of some of the rarities in 2022 so far. All right. A flock of this species were a surprise drop-in to Peely at the end of the summer. Okay. This species was the ultimate rare bird this past May and introduced birders to the OFO Ambassador Program. All right. This species really took Eastern Ontario by surprise, lingering in Kingston and seen by many. It's really nice. Marcy's happier with me now. She didn't look very happy with me about 5 minutes ago. All right. If you build it, they will come. And this species did to a very special restoration site. Okay. All right. Lots of people like to go on a wild goose chases in Ottawa, and sometimes you get to see a really rare one. What species was it this spring? Sorry, this cut off on me. It was in April. A lot of people were on a wild goose chase. I think they were just chasing geese in general and found something cool. All right. Okay. Middlesex County was a reliable spot to see this elegant shorebird in 2022. Not one, but two different individuals of this species were hanging around this winter. Western species. Two different locations in Ontario this winter. All right. More typically seen in Ontario in the fall, this species was the highlight of the spring birding season in Tobermory. It's around the airport and sewage lagoon. The edge of a soccer field seemed like a weird place to find this species, but this mega rarity did not care. All right. And finally, Dyers Bay Road was a surprise location to find this species in May. All right, let's go through our rarities. The first was wood stork. Second was the marsh sandpiper, of course. I think a lot of people got to see that. Number 3 was neotropic cormorant. Number 4, Kirtland's warbler. Number 5, barnacle goose. Number 6 is black-necked stilt. Number 7 was golden-crowned sparrow. Number 8 is Swainson's hawk. Number 9, hepatic tanager. And number 10 was tricolored heron. All right. So now we're going to just go into some random trivia. All right. What color is not on an adult male painted bunting? Blue, red, green, or orange? Okay. All right. Which warbler does not have an eye ring at all in breeding plumage, but has one in non-breeding plumage? Kirtland's warbler, Connecticut warbler, chestnut-sided warbler, or Nashville warbler? All right. The name of the town, Omnami, in the city of the Kawarthas derives from the name of a bird. What is the bird? Is it passenger pigeon, wood thrush, eastern whippoorwill, or ruffed grouse? Okay. How many Ontario breeding birds go through 2 complete molts each year? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Or is it 5? All right. Which western member of the thrush family is most frequently reported in Ontario during the winter? Is it western bluebird, varied thrush, mountain bluebird, or Townsend solitaire? Okay. All right, number 6. What species of warbler was once known as the golden swamp warbler? Anyone who has been to my warbler presentation in May should know the answer to this question. Is it yellow warbler, prothonotary warbler, common yellowthroat, or blue-winged warbler? It's a passion project for me. I would like it to go back to this name. All right. What color is the tail of a gray partridge? I'm just asking you what color. I'm not asking you to identify it by the color. Is it red, black, gray, or brown? Don't even start with me on that, Mark. I'm getting heckled over here from... All right. Which bird most commonly parasitized the nests of the wood duck? Is it brown-headed cowbird, European starling, hooded merganser, or common goldeneye? Okay. What color are the secondaries of the red-headed woodpecker? Are they black, white, gray, or red? Okay, and our last question, just our random throw up. What color are the legs of the Stilt Sandpiper? Black, gray, green, or yellow? What color are the primary feathers of the red-headed woodpecker? Or the secondary feathers of the red-headed woodpecker, sorry. And the choices are black, white, gray, or red. Okay. And then finally, number 10. I think did we all get number 10? What color are the legs of a Stilt Sandpiper? All right. So we're going to run through the answers on this one now. So painted bunting, the color that's not there is orange. The warbler with the eye-ring and non-breeding plumage is chestnut-sided. Passenger pigeon. There is only one bird that goes through 2 complete molts. Anyone know which one it is? Bobolink. Thrush. It is in fact the Townsend solitaire. Golden swamp warbler is prothonotary. I would really like to petition to go back to golden swamp warbler, please. Anyone here has any influence, please help me. I really don't like saying the name prothonotary. Okay, thank you. Gray partridge has a red tail. The parasite is the hooded merganser. You never think of a hooded merganser as being a parasite. The secondaries are white. Okay, most of us don't think of that. I just think, oh, look at the pretty hooded merganser. I don't think, oh, it's going to go and lay eggs in the wood duck's nest. And then finally, the Stilt Sandpiper has... All right. All right, I want everyone to look at the screen now. And I want you to tell me, who's that girl? So number 1, who's that girl? So I'll give you a couple minutes just to look at all of the pictures there. So they're all females. Tell me what species you think they are. If you're in the back of the room and if you've got your binoculars, you can always pull those out. I know, I'm sorry. It's a lot brighter on my screen, I'm sorry. If you want to look, come peek at my screen, you can. There's some people jumping around here. Andy's coming to look at my screen. Good to see ya. All right, we're going to move to our next. So here we go again. Okay, well, we went too far. Here's our next group of girls. I think this group's a little easier than the first group was. All right. Do we still figuring some stuff out? All right. Are we ready? Okay, are we ready to move to the answers? Okay, so number 1 was hooded warbler. Number 2 was an eastern towhee. Number 3 was common merganser. Number 4, which I think was throwing a lot of people, was common yellowthroat. And number 5 was eastern bluebird. All right. In our next one, we have yellow warbler on a nest, wood duck, scarlet tanager, northern cardinal, and finally, northern shoveler. All right. So is everyone ready for our last challenge? You may remember when we were back in Hamilton. I know it's been 3 years, guys, but I had a montage of all kinds of hawks in flight. So I thought that was fun, but let's make it more Peely. So I want you to imagine that you're standing at the tip of Point Peely, and there's a bunch of birds there. Who knew you could see birds on the tip of Point Peely? So we have 15 different species. Well, they might not all be different species, but we have 15 different groups of birds or individuals to identify. And I'm going to give you some time. If people need to get closer to the screen, please come closer. Anyone who wants to come look at my computer screen, which is a little brighter, please feel free to do so. But we can start. And these are all birds that we potentially could see from the point this weekend. So have fun. And I'll give you guys, we'll give you guys 5 minutes to go.
I gotta get right in there.
No. It's brighter.
I'm kidding.
I was working on a nice big screen at home.
Sorry for invading your personal space.
That's okay.
On the angle, they're tough on the angle, I can tell you.
I'm not going to remember the numbers.
Even if you could just kind of remember where they are. A lot of this is hard.
What is two? Like, is its wings forward or something?
Yeah, it's yeah, like that's the head, those wings, feet are here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And they're not all the scale. There's a couple that look rather giant.
The people in the background.
Yes.
Okay.
I should have photoshopped the people in. There's a lot of Photoshop going on. This is the last one. Okay, folks, we've got 2 minutes left. Sure, take a peek at my screen.
So small. They're so small. Didn't help me nearly as much as I'd hoped.
sorry. All right, we're down to our last minute, folks. Less than a minute left. People are saying more time, but then you also want to go to bed, so. Yeah, it's not full screen. It's just brighter. Okay.
Oh, no, just check it.
It's not to scale. You'd be excited if you saw one that looked like that. All right, everyone, time is up. How are people feeling about this? Yeah, Mark, you definitely should know number 13. Okay, are you ready to hear the answers? Number 1 is a sanderling. Number 2 is a red-necked phalarope. Number 3 is a Bonaparte skull. Number 4 is also a Bonaparte skull. Number 5, the one that's not the Bonaparte skull in that group, is a little gull. Number 6, with a very full crop, is a peregrine falcon. Number 7 is a ring-billed gull. Number 8 and number 9 are herring gulls. Number 10 is great blackback gull, and thank God they're not that big, because that would be terrifying at the tip. Number 11 is lesser blackback. Number 12, I think we got 12, right? If you were with me, I would be punching you in the arm, yelling, triangle, 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 for sapine skull. Because that's what my poor father had to put up with the first time I saw one. Just me punching him and yelling triangle at him. Number 13, Mark? Red knot. Number 14 is black-bellied plover. And finally, number 15 is a group of double-crested cormorants flying over the tip. All right. I'll give you a chance now to tally up your scores. All right. Okay, has everybody got through their math? I tried to make it not too hard this year. Okay, are we ready to do some scores? Share some scores? Did anyone get 180 points tonight? Okay, I kind of made sure nobody would. Is anybody over 170 points tonight? All right, anyone over 160 points tonight? How about over 150? All right, 140. Anybody 140? Okay, anybody over 130 tonight? Oh, did somebody have 140 up? No. Okay, how about in the 120s? Anyone in the 120s? All right. So, Andy, how many points did your table have? 126. Can anybody beat 126 tonight? All right, well, the members of the table with 126, you are the winners. And you get to come to see me tomorrow. I'll have my table set up, and I'll have some Art by Peely Girl prizes for you. So I haven't decided exactly what they'll be yet, but you will have some Art by Peely Girl prizes. I hope everyone had fun tonight with this. I do enjoy having some fun with this every year. And I appreciate everyone putting up with some of my hard stuff. I always worry that these quizzes are too easy. I always come here, and this just demonstrates the high opinion I have of everyone in this room, is that I think, oh, my quiz is going to be too easy for all these people. They're such smart people and such talented birders. So the fact that I can stump you on a few things always is fun for me too. So thank you so much. Do we have anything about tomorrow morning?
Not tomorrow. I've got a couple of things, but
I do have one little thing about tomorrow morning. So I know some people may have heard that there's a foot race in the park tomorrow. I know. It was out of my hands, guys. And so there will be a special shuttle running for those people who are signed up for a tip hike in the morning. And the shuttle will be picking up in the visitor center parking lot at 7 a.m. sharp. The park opens at 6 a.m. We're opening early for the convention. So my suggestion to people is to get into the park as early as you can to get parking at the visitor center. The race people will probably be showing up like 7:30, between 7:30 and 9. So if you can get into the park before then, you'll have a better experience. And I also wanted to let you all know that the Friends of Point Peely are going to be running a mini birder breakfast tomorrow too. So if you go down to the tip, there will be a shuttle returning at 8:45, and then at Northwest Beach in the pavilion up there, there'll be coffee, birdseed cookies. I know a lot of people here love the birdseed cookies, and other goodies. So if you want to get away from the kids running around the trails, you can go up to Northwest Beach where there's great birding, and there'll also be coffee and treats.
okay. Well, following that, after Sarah's ruined all of our confidence for tomorrow and our birding ability, just one or two final remarks, just kind of housekeeping things. Similarly about parking, if you're signed up to go to St. Clair National Wildlife Refuge with Quinton tomorrow, there is also some restricted parking. So Pete Reed's advised that if you're able to carpool, if you're able to carpool, that might be best. Otherwise, they may just kind of direct you a little bit further from the beginning of the walk and further away from the bathrooms. And other than that, yeah, everybody have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow for the main event. Doors open here again at 4 p.m., and I believe that the actual program and talks will begin at 7:30. So see everybody then, and have a great day, everyone.